Now, there are growing calls for social media firms to immediately, and by immediately we mean today, before midnight tonight, remove violent content that was seen by the Southport killer, which is still online and available, certainly in this country, today.
As we speak, and it comes as an official review this week. He's likely to reveal the government's counter-terror scheme Prevent could and should have done more to stop Axel Rudikabana. Well, joining us now, the former national head of counter-terrorism, Neil Basu. He once coordinated the Prevent strategy. His job was once called the toughest job in policing. And we're also joined from Southport by the town's MP, Patrick Hurley. Patrick Hurley, you are calling on the social media companies to get rid of this material right now. They haven't done that. It is still online. What sort of material are you talking about?
Yeah, so these are extremist videos. It's content which is banned in its own country of origin. We've heard that he's been watching, or the killer was watching violent videos from Australia, and even in Australia, these things cannot be seen, and yet in the UK they can be. There's no technical reason why these things cannot be removed off the internet, and there's no legal reason why they can't be removed. I think it's really just down to the practices and the policies of the social media owners themselves, and we need to make sure that they get that off the internet. And right now, we need to make sure that whatever was helping to radicalise the murderer doesn't help to radicalise anybody else. There's really no time to waste, as far as I can see.
There's one particular... Sorry, Richard. There's one particular video that you're referring to. It was a stabbing in Sydney last year. X said at the time, the content does not encourage or provoke violence, even though police in Australia were warned that the footage would encourage terrorism, and now the direct link has been made between that specific footage and Axel Rudikabana. So what do you say to X, to Elon Musk, in the wake of that statement at the time? This content does not encourage or provoke violence.
Well, I mean, you just listen to what the experts are saying. The experts have said this does promote violence. This is one of those things where, you know, people might go on social media platforms or on the video streaming services, and you can fall down a rabbit hole of interest here, that the algorithm serves up more and more of what you've watched. So you might watch one video that's got some violent content in there, and it says, look, because you've liked to watch this one video, you're then watching more and more of the same sort of stuff. And before you know it, within hours, you're being served up the most gruesome, violent content possible. And that's where we need to make sure that the owners step in. And Elon Musk has been very vocal on Southport. He's had a lot of positive, warm words and a lot of sympathy for the town. I think he now needs to put his money where his mouth is and say, rather than just the warm words and just the expressions of sympathy, can he also actually implement the policies that will stop something like this, hopefully, from ever happening again?
The problem is, you can win this argument here on a television programme, you can win the argument on paper, you can persuade, I am sure, 99% of people watching that you're absolutely right, and this is a real and present danger, and it can and should be taken down. But if you can't persuade Elon Musk, and for all his warm and honeyed words, it looks like you can't. It looks like people like him, and specifically him, are going to stand firm on this. He sees this as an issue of free speech. Yeah. And he's not going to back down on that. He's not known for backing down. So we can have this argument all day tomorrow and the day after, and you can, as I say, win the case. But if you can't persuade him, it's hot air.
Well, you do your best to persuade people in power and people who've got the authority and the ability to do these things. The traditions of free speech that we have in the UK, dating back hundreds of years, the context dependent. What's appropriate free speech in one context, say in the newspaper, would not be appropriate if somebody was shouting at outside somebody's house and almost inciting violence. And I think that that's the line that we have to draw here. The line that's traditionally been drawn is when free speech tends to incite violence, we deem that to be unacceptable. And the experts in this situation and these circumstances have said the free speech videos which are being shared online, which are being shared on mainstream platforms, are an incitement to violence and should be removed. Because it's one thing to go searching for this stuff actively and put into all sorts of search terms and download the smaller platforms which aren't as mainstream. But it's another thing entirely to be presented to them on a plate on a mainstream platform like X. It's another thing entirely to have this just sent to your phone or sent to your laptop. And I think that that's the danger, that more and more people are being almost self-radicalized. 20 years ago, they might have joined an organization or gone to an overseas training camp and been radicalized there. We're seeing more and more in 2025 that that's just happening in people's bedrooms and online and in the comfort of their own homes. And we need to make sure that we break that chain.
OK, thank you. Can we come across now, because we're running out of time a little here, to...
I just want to say...
Oh, yes, please do.
Just in response to that, we did approach X and Meta and TikTok and Google and YouTube for a response. Total silence so far. So, you know, they know what they need to do, but we haven't had a comment from them.
It really does sound as if you're at the foot of a very steep hill. Let's come across now to Neil Basu, who coordinated the Prevent strategy, which, of course, is now completely discredited. When do you think Prevent lost it, Mr Basu? When do you think Prevent became the fairly useless arm that we now see it to be?
Well, two factual corrections. And the first thing I'd say is it's another start of a gruelling week for the families and the community in Southport. And I echo everything Mr Hurley's just said, but I have no hope that those big tech companies will do what he's asking. It will need law. It will need law and advertisers to remove the social media content. Two things. I didn't share the Prevent strategy. The Prevent strategy is a government strategy. I led, both as the Senior National Coordinator and as the Head of Counter-Terrorism, the policing response to the Prevent strategy. It is a multi-agency programme. And of course, in this case, it is accurate to say that it has failed. But then every terrorist attack is seen by somebody in the national security community as a failure. In this case, terrorism has not been proved, but still the system itself was not good enough. And the family deserve answers for that. All the families, and in fact, the wider public and community deserve answers. And the correct two people have been put in charge of finding those answers, Jonathan Hall and Lord Anderson, both incredibly capable. They will be swift, I'm sure, and incredibly thorough in examining what did go wrong, if anything went wrong. I think there are some serious problems with Prevent. There always have been. I first called for a review on Prevent in 2015. It took many years for those reviews to come into the light, and they weren't long enough, hard enough, or deep enough to discover some of the very obvious problems. And that is, this programme has been unsupported, easily toxified, and your comments this morning, Richard, tell me that you have also read a lot of the media around Prevent and think that it is a failure. Yeah. Well, Prevent, and certainly William Shawcross's review, said very clearly, if you didn't have Prevent, you'd have to reinvent it. Yes. Prevent is probably the most important of the four counter-terrorism pillars. It's now being extended into areas where it is going to get overwhelmed. So
I think viewers will take your point, Neil Basu, that we don't see all of the successes of Prevent. What we see is, in this particular case, the utter failure of Prevent. You said back in 2019, critics are right to challenge the programme. There is a lack of understanding about the thresholds for intervention and about the limitations of where safeguarding a vulnerable person stops and pursuing criminal behaviour starts. That certainly seems to be the failure in this case, 6 years on, doesn't it?
And the fact that I said that long ago and we're still in that space tells you that this is a programme. I served under 4 Home Secretaries, 5 Security Ministers and 2 Prime Ministers. There wasn't a government that supported its own strategy in Prevent. It's underfunded. It's overwhelmed in local communities where it's trying to do great work on the ground. And we are giving people the impression that if somebody is involved in Prevent, it is the magic bullet that's somehow going to stop anything happening. And that is simply not the case. And I did see my role as not just trying to stop terrorism, but trying to reduce the fear of terrorism. But in this case, it would be wrong for anyone in the national security community or government to promise that there is a 100% solution to this. And I think that's why the inquiry was correctly announced and so important. The Prime Minister was correct. It's a nationally defining crime. Yes. There are few things that have been more horrific than this. We need to understand what went wrong and we need to fix it. And that has always happened after a catastrophe certainly in my space, I can go all the way back to 7/7, and this is the 20-year anniversary of that. The entire national security community changed as a result of that, as a result of Lee Rigby, and as a result of 2017. It will need to do so again.
Yeah. Neil Basu, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and Patrick Hurley as well. Thank you.